what we're going to be talking about today is Prezi, which I think most of you saw at faculty retreat. Is that true? And so there was a big push at that time for some kind of a workshop on it. I was not at that time a Prezi user. I'd seen it, I'd played with it, but I just hadn't used it. And so just during this quarter, I was just gathering resources and looking around, seeing what other people were doing. And we'll see how. So this is the first workshop of this, so we'll see how that goes. I wanted to add an element of comparing and contrasting with PowerPoint because I think it's important to see, especially if you're already using PowerPoint, why you might want to switch or why you might not want to switch, depending on what you're doing. So we'll be working with it here. So if I was to go to Prezi.com and log in, I'd get to this page here, Prezi.com, and if I didn't already have an account, if I wasn't already logged in here, it would have asked me to do that or to be able to set up an account. But once I have logged in an initial time, it remembers me when I come back to the site, and then it'll say, here are your presentations, or Prezi, excuse me. And so you'll see your Prezis listed. You'll want to make sure that you sign up using an EDU account and that you let them know that you're an educator because that makes a difference between 100 megabytes of free space in the cloud on their server and 500 megabytes. What they'll give you. It also means the difference between having a public account. Always, everything you create is available to anyone if it's free, and if it's for an educator account, you could make things private. Okay, if you're working with someone else outside of SPU who's not an educator, let's say your church or something, and they wanted to create an account, their situation would be that they would have to pay if they wanted something to be private. That's one of the benefits of the premium account if you're not in education. Okay, so this is what it looks like. The one we're going to be working with is this Prezi versus PowerPoint. So I'm going to click on that link, and it's going to hopefully slowly take me into that. So at this point, this is a link that I could share with people that they could come here themselves. They wouldn't have the ability to edit it like I'm seeing, but this is a place, a URL where someone could come into. Okay, I want to at this time click on edit the presentation if I'm going to either at this time if I want to do more than just show it. I'll click on edit. And because I've specified that I'm an education user, it always comes up with that educational licensing piece. And then I come to this screen, okay? And it already has some of my things on it, so we're seeing those. But if you were starting for the first time, it would be a brand new presentation. And what you notice as I'm editing it is that I have this what's called a bubble menu up here on the left. And that's really the key to it, is that you've got the ability to, at any time, click your cursor somewhere on the screen and be able to add text. I'm going to zoom out here a little bit so you can see the whole thing here. And I know we have some people that have used Prezi in here. So at any time, I think it's everybody I've talked to talks about it as being, looking for a few more tips. I'm using it, but I want to be able to do this one thing, and I don't know if it's possible or how to do it. So at any time, if you can tell me how I can be more efficient with it or effective, feel free to jump in. But this is giving you, I zoomed out enough to where you can see my entire presentation. And so I still see the bubble menu up here. And like I said, any place that I'd click, I'd be able to start typing text and make a new slide, so to speak. It's not really a slide, but add new content to a place on the screen. And I think one of the challenges for me when I'm learning how to use it is making a transition from PowerPoint. Thinking about PowerPoint since 10 plus years, this is the way sometimes you think about your presentation in terms of the tool that you can create it with. And so you're putting those things in your mind, and how would you do this and how would you do that using the tool that you have access to. So for me, in trying to make a presentation about Prezi, using Prezi was a little difficult because I was still thinking in terms of PowerPoint. So when you look at my presentation, there's a lot of it that just really is PowerPoint, where I'm going linearly through slides. I'm taking advantage of some of the transitional features that Prezi has, but not necessarily the nonlinear ability to branch off to places at any time. So we can talk more about that, but just to give you a little bit of background on it. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and begin the presentation just by using the bubble menu to click on the Show button. So I clicked on the Show button, and that takes me to this point. And then down at the bottom, I can see the arrows, the navigational arrows here. And if I click and hold down on the back arrow, it will take me to the start of the presentation. Did everybody see that? So just clicking down on that, you see the little reverse arrow. That was something I struggled with. I spent a lot of time shifting around and moving it to where I could zoom right in on my first piece of content that I wanted to share, and only until, sometimes you have to read the directions to find out that there was actually a little way to jump there immediately. So your arrow keys can work. Did anyone who's used this, have you tried it with your clicker? Because it is supposed to work with a clicker. I have not gotten that far. I've not tried to see if it will work with a clicker, but supposedly it will. Okay, yeah, the clicker is designed for a linear presentation as well, so it would be limited in what it could do for you. Okay, so here we are on a first piece of content. Here's our presentation that we're looking at, and so we want to talk specifically about how to use Prezi, but we also want to, as we're going through this, compare and contrast PowerPoint. So objectives here in traditional PowerPoint bullet form, we want to know what Prezi is. We want to know how it's different than PowerPoint. We want to know how to get an account. We want to, by the end of our time together, talk about a workflow. How do we think through a presentation? And then at the end, how do we, when we're finished, share that Prezi with other people? Okay, so if you came to this without going to faculty retreat, or you missed the part in faculty retreat where several people showed Prezis, we're looking at what is a web-based presentation tool. The key to it is it has this map design. So when we were seeing that zoomed out view, we were seeing the whole presentation in one space. And I think if you were really using Prezi correctly, that would be a picture of something, really. I mean, we shouldn't think of this as a replacement for PowerPoint. It's another tool. So there may still be reasons why, okay, for this particular presentation I'm giving, PowerPoint is the best tool because it is a linear presentation that I need to give. And for this other presentation, it isn't linear. I'm going to be going big picture, small picture, big picture, small picture, and it would help them to see that overall framework as they're going through it. Okay. And when you sign up for the account, make sure that you follow the appropriate link to get the educational version, because otherwise they describe the offline version is something that you pay the premium price for. When you click the down arrow in PowerPoint, you go to the next slide. When you click the down arrow in Prezi, you zoom out. Just a little tip for you there. So here's some ways that I found Prezi and PowerPoint to be different. The first being this idea again of linear or nonlinear navigation. I want to be clear that you could make a linear Prezi if you wanted to, and you can use PowerPoint non-linearly. There have been add-ons made for PowerPoint that try to make it more like Prezi. The one that I tried, I wasn't very satisfied with. I felt like it let me zoom in a little bit, but I didn't really have the full control. But you can also do things like with PowerPoint, if you know the number of the slide in presentation mode, you can jump around. And so if you knew somebody, or you were somebody who was really good with overhead transparencies, where you could just throw those things on there, had just a whole track of them. I mean, that's something that can be done with PowerPoint if you know your slides well enough. But I don't think you can ever really duplicate that ability to zoom out in the same way that Prezi does it. First of all, the layout. In terms of the way that Prezi is just a blank canvas. And you go into it, you have a blank canvas, and you can put anything anywhere. And so you can start working and just work your way out. And in some ways that's liberating. In some ways it's frustrating because you're trying to stay organized, or you think you want to clump it around or something, and it's starting to shoot off this way. And so when you zoom out, you're kind of wondering what's going on. So when we talk about a workflow, it really helps to kind of think through before you begin. And then we know how PowerPoint was based on the idea of a slide projector, so it is set up to be a stack of slides. In terms of the format, as John's mentioned, it is web-based, but you do have the downloadable version with the EDU. Whereas PowerPoint has now gone the other way. PowerPoint was desktop-based, but there is web apps for PowerPoint, so you now can use the 2010 version of PowerPoint in a web browser. There's a way to create that if anyone's interested. And then in terms of the printing options with Prezi, what it does when you tell it to print is it turns each of your frames. We'll talk about what frames are, but it turns each of your frames into really like a slide. And so those then become pages for you. And so it creates a PDF document for you. And for example, if you had like the title and then you zoomed out and you showed the title and the content that was below the title, those would be two slides. I mean, if we were printing it out. So what you have to be careful with is as you're zooming around and framing things in on your map, that if you have 60 places that you visit, you could end up with this like 60 slides if you were giving it to someone to have as a printout. So what you might find yourself then doing is needing to edit the PDF and delete pages because the person looking at it doesn't need all the zooming in and out that maybe you're doing as you're focusing on things in your presentation. And so then in PowerPoint, you do have this ability. When you say print, you know, do you want to print the slides out? Do you want to print handouts out? Do you want to print notes out? And there's lots of options for you the way that it's currently set up. And I think it's probably, in Prezi's case, it's just a product maturity issue. It's a new product. It's actually out of Hungary is where it began. And they've now have a San Francisco office. So it's, you know, it's one of these projects that's probably started pretty small with one or more, I don't really know the story, but one or more people's idea, and it came together, and it's taken off to the point where they're, you know, they're just waiting for Google or Microsoft to buy them out now, and then they can start their next company, just like everybody else. And then I hit the down arrow again. Got to remember not to do that. So how do you sign up for a Prezi account? But if you just go to Prezi.com, you can actually follow through. I mean, this is the direct link to it. So it's Prezi.com/profile/signup/edu. That would get you directly to the page we could see it in. And one of the things with Prezi is when you include a full hyperlink, I'll bring that back, when you include http:// whatever the URL is, if you include that in your Prezi, it becomes an active link. So somebody, just like I did, if you just click on that link once you're running your presentation, it will actually work. So we talked a little bit about the editing before. And the use of this bubble menu as the way to edit when you're in Prezi. And then there's also the Prezi Zebra, which is an interesting tool. We'll look at how that works. But it's like I say, it's an interesting tool to see what it can do. But with the bubble menu. You have the ability to insert pictures. You have the ability to frame things, which we'll talk about why that might be important. You have the ability to create this path so that so that as you're giving your presentation, you know which order you want things to go in terms of your content. You do have a limited ability to have style, so choices of colors. Very limited in terms of that. There's some themes that you can pick from, but there's not a lot of variety there. And then this is also like what we're doing currently is the show. So if I go up to the top left and just roll over there, I'll get the menu back for me. You can toggle between the show and the ability to edit by using the space bar. Okay, that's an important thing to remember. So if you hit the space bar while you're in the show, that will let you see the editing tools again. Okay, anybody remember off the top of your head what the space bar does in PowerPoint? You advance a slide. So you know, those of us that have been doing it for a while, we have all these. There's like 15 things you can hit to advance the slide, and sometimes you just hit the space bar. And in this case, if you hit the space bar, you're going back to the edit mode. Okay? So with this, I'm going to actually get out of this presentation in a second and let you actually see it. You know, actually, I'm just trying to think through this in terms of being able to show you some of the things with a new presentation and editing it. This is where the desktop tool would have been helpful, but I'm going to stay with the web tool. So at this time, I'm going to jump out of our presentation here. So to do that, it automatically saves for you, so that's not necessarily something you have to worry about. It does have a save button up here that you can use, but typically what you'll see up there is a time of when the last time it saved it, but it's doing that frequently. So I'm going to just click exit here, and I'm going to get back to where possibly you are so that I can create one with you. Okay, so it jumps me back to here. And so then if I went back to where it says your presentations, we can all click on that new Prezi if you haven't already done that. And it will be asking you for a title. And a description. And then click New Prezi. And similar to how PowerPoint first comes up where it wants you to click and add something, this tells you to click anywhere and add an idea. And so I don't know that there's any limit to the canvas. Maybe somebody else knows that, but as far as I know, you can just keep going out as far as you want in any direction and create content. My recommendation would be that this first piece of content is actually what you would start with, that you would double click on it, and then you can actually change what it says in a way to get your title in. Okay. And so I'm going to just add something here because I still have a workflow that I want to go through with you. But I'm going to add just put a title in here. So I'm just going to select this text. And call mine Prezi Demonstration. And the blocks of text that you put in, they're independent of each other. So if I had some subheading that I wanted to say, if I'm okay with it being at the same font size and being positioned exactly how Prezi will position it in this text box, then I can press enter and keep typing, okay? If I want that. But if I wanted the ability to move that subheading around or change the font size or something, then I really should make it its own independent item in this. I'm going to delete that off there. And so if you'll just, once you've created it, if you just click off, that then becomes its own item on the Prezi screen. And so to edit this, if I've got two choices. If I want to do something to this heading that I have here, if I click once, I get the Prezi Zebra. Okay, the Prezi Zebra. And it took me a little while to figure the Prezi Zebra out. I see Erla shaking her head as well. But it's quite clever. The very middle stripes, vertical stripes in the Prezi Zebra, if you click and hold down, that's how you can drag whatever it is around. Okay? So if you have something there, if you click and drag around, you can move it. The next group of lines, the circle, 3 circles, this is how you, if you click there and move up or down, click and drag up or down, you're resizing it. Okay? And for a while, I was trying to click around like this, and it was going in and out, in and out, in and out. So just know that you just need to click on it, and if you go up or down, you're resizing it. If you have other items on the page, as you're resizing one item, you'll see those other items, possibly you'll see them highlight. When you see another item highlight, what it's indicating to you is it's the same size. There is no way in Prezi to say, I want this to be a 16-point font, and this to be a 32-point font, and this to be 40. You resize, okay, just by dragging. My point on, if you have multiple lines of text in the same block, and you're used to in PowerPoint selecting the top block and making that font bigger and selecting the next line and making it smaller, those have to be two separate items in order for you to do that, okay? You can make one line a bullet point and the other line not a bullet point, but you can't change the font size with it or color, okay? It's almost like you need to leave it the size they give you. Just take that. Give it up, right now. Release it, okay? It'd be nice if, as you were doing that, it showed you like a size or something so you could kind of lock into it if you got it where you want it. Then the third one, what do you think the third one does if you haven't already figured it out? If you click that and drag it, you'll get the rotation, okay? Okay, so that just gives you a little bit of insight to it so that I can jump back to the presentation and talk a little bit about a workflow. So you can see it saved my presentation at 12:51. I'm going to now exit. You can stay in this because I'm going to just go back to my presentation and give you some more tips. But you can, if you did exit, it would save again on exiting. And it's fairly slow to exit on online, so you just need to be patient with that. Once I'm out of that, I can click back to your presentations. So I'm going to go back to that other presentation I have. Click on it. It will load. Okay, and we'll go ahead and go into it. And I'm going to click on Show again. And the spacebar would have worked there as well. And full screen. And I'm going to go back to the arrows. Okay, so let me jump to where I'm at. How are you jumping? It's actually the path. So I'm actually just hitting my right arrow key to go to the next one. Okay, so here were some of the features when you signed up. You probably saw this on that page, but that middle one is what you have, the EDU Enjoy, which is the one that they actually charge for if you're getting a public account. Okay, so we looked at both the bubble menu and the Zebra. And I'm going to jump back. One of the things I want to show here real quickly is you can see the jagged edges on those images. This is another challenge for you, is that putting images in, almost the best thing that works are PDF documents. They seem to do the best job of scaling. Otherwise, you want to be really careful about having something that's a low-res image. If you're looking at images on the web and the image, you're looking at Google Images, and there's something that's sometimes you see where it will say 200 by 300 in terms of the size of it. Those images coming in, you'll have no ability to zoom in on them. They'll look like this one does. They'll look jagged. Okay, and so you really need to start with bigger images. And some of the help guides that I've seen suggest that everything needs to be at this 1024 by 768. So like 1,000 pixels big is really what needs to happen for you to zoom in on it. And that's a little bit more than we have time to cover, capturing those types of images. But it is something that I'd want to make sure you understand. So if you're planning to use this tool and that's something that you don't understand, please talk to me, because we can make sure that we help you figure out how to capture those types of images. Okay. Okay. So To actually bring in an image to your Prezi, I'm going to zoom out here. Okay, and I was just using the down arrow key again to zoom out. And then I'm going to use the space bar here to get me back into an edit mode. Okay, I could have also just rolled up here to the top left side of the screen. But there is this insert, okay? And so I can click on insert. And when I do that, it does have the ability to insert shapes. So if you were wanting to, kind of frame things in with, circles or point arrows at things, you do have the ability to have shapes. But then loading files is what we're probably most interested in. And so if you've saved an image from the web, then to pull that image in, you click on load file, and you would be able to go and find something. So let me just, I'll just use something that's in here so I won't have to jump around. But I just want to, let's say if I want to grab the Prezi logo, I'll just click there, click open, and it's pulled that in. Here's the Prezi logo, and so now I have the ability to click on it once, get my Prezi Zebra, and then I can drag it to where I want it to go. Okay, if I click off, and that's possibly a little confusing because the thing that I brought in had the Prezi Zebra in it, but I just click it once, it gives me the zebra. I need the zebra to be able to manipulate it. So if I want to move it, I click that middle piece. If I want, what's going to happen if I click the next ring? Resize it. Careful doing that with images because of you make it really big, you're going to get the pixelation. And the third ring would let me rotate it if I wanted to do that. I guess this zooming is the problem. You're not typically in PowerPoint, you're not typically zooming in on an image that you create, where this invites you to do that. So you bring in, let's say that you're working with the human body, you bring in what is a nice graphic for a full screen PowerPoint. Well, you were just pointing at it before, but now they've encouraged you, hey, zoom in on those lungs, zoom in on the muscles in the leg. That's something that you've got the ability to do in this tool. And so you really need to begin that. You have to start with a really high-res version of that initial image in order for it to not just look jagged when you zoom in. When I go back and edit this one for the next time I give this workshop, one of those compare and contrast, I think, needs to be the handling of video, because it is a real strength of Prezi, the ease that it handles the things like a YouTube video. You just put the URL. I mean, when I click here, if I paste the URL of a YouTube file, whenever I click, it will just immediately embed that YouTube video there for me. And as John said, when you set up your path, when that YouTube video is when you get to the path and you've made the YouTube video one of the items in your path, when it gets there, it just starts playing the video. And with PowerPoint, there's all sorts of, first of all, unless you're working with 2010, it's fairly clumsy, in my opinion, to get a YouTube video. I mean, most people have resorted to using some tool to take the YouTube video and pull it offline and bring the video in that way. And then they've got to make a decision if they want it to automatically play or start it by clicking on it. And it just doesn't work as slick as this tool will work for you. Okay. All right, so I'm going to jump back to the show here that you've seen that. And go full screen again. And I thought it would take me right back to where I was, and it does. Okay, so what's the workflow for creating a Prezi? Okay, and there it is. It isn't. I think we can all agree that it's not. It's different. So if you're used to something else, it's going to be different. So here's what I see as a workflow, and I would appreciate your insight on this. So I think, to me, that you really do need to think about your map first. And talking with Erla again, we both, when we were putting the presentation together, things started to run together, and you've got too close together. And when they get too close together, when you start to put your path on, you start to see other content. When you're, I'm looking, I want people's eyes to focus on this, but this piece of content is right up against it, and so it actually is showing part of this on the slide that I don't want people to see. So if you think about your map initially and give things more room, then you don't have that as being as big of a problem. Okay. Gathering your resources, so your URLs, your old PowerPoint, your any images you have, and again, higher the resolution, the better if you plan to zoom in. If you're just looking for graphics that are just going to complement some of the text, then you're okay. If you're not planning to zoom in on that graphic, it's not a problem. Okay. Then in terms of creating your presentation, they provide several good tutorials, I think, to get you started. And I definitely would watch those as you're going through this. But as we mentioned, you just double-click anywhere in the window to begin going. And then if you want to add more detail, if you've thought about it in terms of I want a large block of text, and then I actually want to zoom in on an image that's associated with that large block of text, you can. I mean, this canvas is really infinite, because even if things are close together, you still can zoom in on something that's smaller. Again, keeping in mind that sometimes when you do that, some of the corners of other things may show up when you zoom in. So the Zebra, the primary purpose of the Zebra is the changing of the location, moving it around, resizing it, making it bigger or smaller, and then rotating it. But as we saw with Carrie's example, there was also the ability to have a few other functions there, which were some of the layering issues. Okay, and for me, I hadn't run into that point yet where I was always waiting till the end to add the frames, and so I was pretty certain of my content was all in the right place. But now that's an issue. So when you add some other components, which we'll do, you'll see that runs into place. You may run into a problem there. Adding images in YouTube videos. The images, we showed how you can insert those. The YouTube video, once you double click on a spot, all you need to do is paste the URL for the YouTube video. Okay, double click on a spot, paste the URL for a YouTube video, and it's there. Okay, that's as simple as it is. And then the framing comes in. Okay, and for the framing, I think at first I kind of that there were tutorials that were saying, make sure you advanced feature framing. And I was even thinking, okay, that's advanced. We won't even deal with that as part of this workshop. But as you work with it, it's not really an option. The framing, I think, is an essential piece if you're planning to have someone follow a path through. And so I want to demonstrate how that is going to look for us. And then I think after you've got the framing taken care of, you can add paths. Okay? And the reason the framing is important first is you're framing in what you want someone to see. Okay? And so if you don't frame it in before you add the paths, you'll probably end up going back later and changing the path because you had to put a frame in order to make it focus in on what you want and not show other unrelated content on the screen. Okay? And once you've added the path, then that kind of gives you your so-called story that you can use, and you're ready to click Show to present. Okay? So I wanted to demonstrate the framing part because I think that's a little bit of a challenge, and then, or it's just something new to see. It's different from, I don't think it's hard, but it's different for people who are used to PowerPoint. And then I want to show how we add the paths, and then I think we still hopefully will have some time where you can just try stuff, and we can, those of us that have used it can walk around and give you some tips if you're running into some issues while you're doing that. You should get some indication on your browser. There should be something scrolling letting you know that it actually acknowledges it. I'd like some kind of an exiting image to come up on the screen or something so I don't click it 3 or 4 times. So I'm going to jump back to that new presentation. Okay, I have one item on the screen, and I'm just going to add a few more. So I'm just going to come over. I'm going to edit first, edit my presentation. I'm going to click over here and have some text, more text. I'm not going to take the time to get a YouTube video right now just because I think you can experiment with that. I'll just put even more. I just want you to see the very basics of this. Okay, with those set the way they are, if I go directly to path, and I'm going to actually move this one closer. So if I want to move this one closer to here, what do I need to do to text? One click, right? One click gives me the zebra. I'm moving it closer. And I'm moving it closer so it's actually going to be worse. I'm wanting to show an exaggerated issue here. So I've got those things listed. Now I'm going to click on path. Okay, and I can tell it that I want to add the path. So I'm going to click Add Path, and I just start with wherever I was going to start with my presentation. So here's my first thing, so I click there. So that becomes 1. If this is the second thing in my list, then that becomes 2. Okay, if over here is the third thing, this becomes 3, and if this is the fourth thing, I click on it now, and it becomes 4. Okay. Now, if I made a mistake, if 3 really wasn't 3, I can drag it off the screen, and it just eliminates that one. So if you, and it just reorders them to the last one, okay? And if it really was supposed to go here, then here, in between each one, there's a midpoint, and I just need to drag that midpoint to the new item. And if I do that, I have a path. Okay? Now if we go ahead and actually play this, so to show it, I'm going to come back up to the bubble menu, click on it, click on Show. And what's the shortcut for Show anytime? Space bar. But if I click on Show now, I'm ready. If I want to go to the very beginning of my show, what do? Back arrow. If I click the back arrow and select all the way back, I start with the beginning. So you can see a little bit of text up here, which could be worse, but it's not too bad. So I'm going to just hit my right arrow, move to the next thing. Right arrow, move to the next thing. Actually, this is working okay. I didn't put them close enough together. And there's even more text. Okay. So my beginning one was the best that I was doing for you on that. But imagine we've got pictures and other things. We've got a list of items that we're showing here. So, to eliminate something like this is where the framing comes in. Okay? So if I hit the space bar again, I'm out of this. And now, if I just zoom out a bit here so I can see everything, and if I want to frame it, I can click on framing, and I can choose to frame something in. So I'm just going to click and drag a rectangle around this. And if you do that, you'll get kind of a stylized framing that a lot of people like the looks of something like that. So that's, a possibility to do. And you can click on it and move it if it didn't quite center itself. But it's also possible that you don't want anything around it. You want it to just, whatever's there to stand on its own. So in that case, there is a hidden frame. So you can click a hidden frame and use that around another item. The frame shows in this view, but when we go to the actual text item, we won't see it. Okay, and I'm going to even, on this last one, we'll see what happens if I just frame that part. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my paths, and I'm going to change all my paths. So I'm taking all of those, and I don't know any other way to do this, else I would if I knew a way to delete all the paths at once. I'm just dragging each one off. So now with the path, I can add it. So I just need to make sure when I'm doing this, you see, if I click here for the first part of my path, I'm going to be highlighting this. I'm going to be selecting what I had before. So, but when I roll over the frame and click that, and now the frame, even though it looks like it's the same thing, the frame is actually being selected. So same thing here. Rolling over it there, rolling over the frame, rolling over the frame. So the proof should be we only see even on that last one. Okay? Hitting the space bar, we should be back to our show mode here. And so if we zoom, I didn't start from the beginning, so it just went to where it was. Goes to the next one, and there it just zoomed in on that last one. So you can put frames within frames. What I found works best is if I'm going to do that, I click first. So I'm clicking like I'm going to add text, and then I type a character, and then I paste. And then it didn't do any weird formatting. But if I did it the other way, it seemed to be altering the text for me. I might have just been delusional, but that seemed to work better for me. In terms of sharing this in Blackboard, you have a URL that you've created. So when you're in Prezi, if I exit out, as long as the presentation's public and you share the URL, and that's a private URL. Okay? So for Blackboard, if you copy this URL and then go to Blackboard, and in Blackboard you would paste it you would put it in a content area in Blackboard, so documents, course documents, something where you're seeing these menus across the top. And under Build, if you click on Create External Link, and then put in the name of your presentation, and then paste the URL in there and submit. And then that should give them, when they click on that, that should give the Prezi. The one thing that I would change there that I just did, I'd go back and edit that. The one other thing I would choose is down at the bottom, I would open it in a new window, and then you don't have to worry about it having it inside a Blackboard where it's kind of, it seems a little funny. So now clicking it, I get it in a brand new, it's in a window by itself, but you're still in Blackboard. If you're the student, you can go back and forth between what you just opened and there. So again, that's just under Build, create external link, put in the name, the URL, and then at the bottom, make sure you say yes to open in a new window. The same screen that showed us where we could copy the link also has information if you wanted to put it on Facebook, Twitter, or email it to someone. Those are all available there. And there was also a link there to embed if you want to actually if you want to put it on a website where it's actually the presentations inside of the website, like on a blog. That's how that would be done. And again, it's public by default. You need to make it private. You need to choose to make it private. So that's something like right away when you're doing the setting choices that you would want to do once you've created it. Okay, and then just to finish up here, just some tips. And I think like I said, I think I've learned a few tips as we've gone on. But I think this tool, for me at least now, where I'm at with the tool, the planning is a critical piece, because I find it very tedious to have to go back and move things around if I decide I want the map to look differently. I don't know if you can, is that the same thing you're experiencing? Yeah. So I think if I really want to have it as close to the way I finally want it when I put it together. I say go easy on the Zebra. I think it's really easy to, I don't know the fine motor skills or whatever, but I just drag it a little bit and it blows up real big and it shrinks down to almost nothing. The zooming seems to be a little quick for me, so I think you really have to go slow when you're using that tool. The grouping in the frames, the thing I didn't point out there is the thing people are complaining about now with Prezi. Everybody's been crying about PowerPoint making us stupid for all these years, and they've fallen in love with Prezi, but already people are saying Prezi makes me dizzy. When you see somebody's presentation and they're flying all over the screen, you feel like you're at the IMAX or something, and you're on the roller coaster getting sick. So be careful about that. You're going to need to practice. I mean, if you're taking advantage of the nonlinear features of this, you're going to need to see how you can move your cursor around to zoom, how the up and down arrows help you zoom in and out. It's just going to take some time to get used to just the way PowerPoint did initially for you. And don't be afraid to mix PowerPoint and Prezi together. You might find the easiest way to make a Prezi the first time is to make a PowerPoint and then export all the slides out as PDFs. And then anybody watching this video that's a Prezi fanatic is probably I've committed blasphemy there, but I just think the two can work together. And there's even there's a YouTube video where someone shows that they've embedded a Prezi inside of a PowerPoint. So you might just have one thing in a PowerPoint that you want to take advantage of some of the nonlinear features, and so they were able to just embed it in there and move around on that one slide. Finally, I mean, my biggest frustration in trying to make this transition, or there were several times where I started with it and then I'd just run into something where I wasn't quite satisfied with like how it was framing things or whatever, and so I just stopped for a while. But I think it is what we know is what we like. When we already have experience with something, we're looking for those features. And so when you don't immediately find those, it can be frustrating, and you may just say, I'm not going to do this. But I think it is worth, it's worth exploring. There are things that you can do with this that you can't do with PowerPoint. And so I think it's another tool for you to use in the classroom. And so I think if you can just continue to ask questions, and there is a Learn tab within the Prezi website that has a lot of information. There's a manual there. And I think if we can just, ask each other questions, we can take this tool to where it needs to be to make it, a good tool in our arsenal of tools that we're using for helping improve teaching and learning. So with that, I'll stop, and if you've got any other questions or comments, take those. Thank you for coming and participating. Thanks.